Sen de Good afternoon and welcome to the Bahrain Bayan School Virtual Career Panel Session. I'm Ms. Ghussoon Mohammed and the panel know me as the IB Psychology and Theory of Knowledge teacher. We have with us today Ms. Mirna Madi, the Head of Department for English, or best known as the IB English teacher. It's the time of the year worldwide when students are applying and eagerly waiting for university offers and acceptance. Our student audience will be walking through the journey very soon, and before you know it, you will all be at the university yourselves. Time really goes by quickly, so preparation in advance is the best way to succeed. As such, the main focus for today's session will be to provide you with insight in preparing for the after-school journey, shed light on what the transition to university life felt like through the lens of our Bayan Alumni panel. Also, given that the alumni are experiencing the effect of the pandemic firsthand, they will be able to share how this has affected their educational experience and may affect the current seniors. It is through advice and guidance will you students be able to prepare for the future. And that is why we have invited our panel to hear about their experiences and perspectives after they had left school. This is a great opportunity for you all to ask questions about what really happens after school graduation and how best to be prepared for university. Remember, if you have any questions, you can fill in the form available in the description. Hand over to Ms. Marina.
So, hello guys, how are you? Today we have with us Tamim Al-Sharif, who's studying unmanned aerial system. Sharif, Tamim, you have to explain what does this mean in a minute. It took me a while to get it. Unmanned aerial system at Arizona State University. And I think, as we discussed earlier, it's morning time for you. Hi, Tamim. Aisha Al-Jodar, who is studying economics at Northeastern University in the United States and minoring in English, following the legacy. Hi, Aisha. And with us, we have Layla Ahmadi, who is studying medicine at RCSI Bahrain, and this opportunity to
That's
say...
Yasmin Ahmadi. I don't confuse when they have two sisters at the same time.
We're teaching her sister currently, so hi, Yasmin, with a sign-in name Layla, and we'll seize this opportunity to say greetings to Dr. Bashar Ahmadi, our esteemed board member at the Bahrain Bayan School. So we will start with memories, and we will start where it all started. Allow me to present my screen, and then the floor will be yours. Tamim, do you remember this photo? Can you tell us how did it end here and how did it start with you currently, uni life?
Of course, this is one of the most memorable photos I've ever had and somebody take of me. This photo was of me giving the closing speech in the Bayman, the one that I hosted in Bayan, with the help of my colleagues and my classmates, and also the fellow teachers. Um, in this closing speech, it showed how things can really pass by really quick. Time is really not in your favor, especially when you're studying, when you're trying to achieve your goals. So when I started going to uni and I started seeing these nostalgic pictures, it made me to realize that you have to make the best of what you can, as you only have 4 years to do whatever you want to do in university, to follow your dreams, follow your passions, and everything comes to a close. You have to make the best of it, no matter how bad things can be or how good things can be. You should always just um, make the best of everything. And this is really what comes to my mind every time I see this picture.
Ms. Marina, kindly unmute.
Thank you, Ms. Ghussoon. I'm presenting full screen, guys. So, excuse me. So, Aisha, your comment?
Well, this picture represents a time in my life that was very uncertain, but that night made it seem like everything was going to be okay. I think Miss Miriam, your mic is still on.
Okay, and would you like to comment on the award memorial that you received here?
Yes, but Miss, I think your mic is on, so I'm echoing. Yeah. So I received an award that night for global citizenship. It was the Kanu Award. I was very grateful to receive the award, and especially being at that graduation in particular, it was greater than any graduation I had ever envisioned myself being a part of. I was really grateful to be a part of it. It was like one of the biggest events during the pandemic. It opened like people's eyes in Bahrain and people's eyes globally to see like what we can achieve as a community during a pandemic and like coming out of it. And I see that there have been trends in Bahrain and in our own lives where we've adapted that kind of resilience. And I think I've adapted it to my own life. And having the Global Citizenship Award was really important because there are a lot of things you need to do as a global citizen to like there's a lot of responsibility that's riding on everyone as an individual during the pandemic. So I was very grateful to receive this award.
And lastly, we're moving to Yasmin.
Hi, so I'm Yasmin. I'm in RCSI currently. I will graduate in the batch of 2017. So this picture is actually from the day of my white coat ceremony, and which was last year, which is basically the transition from preclinical to clinical, where we start going to hospitals. So I'm in a 6-year program, and I finished 4 years, and I have 2 years left. And I have other people from me with me from my 2017 batch who graduate me from Bayon School and who are joining with me, and we're graduating in 2 more years. And I really am enjoying that school. Thank you.
Okay, so good luck in your future endeavors and the long path you still have ahead. The fundamental question goes to the three of you now, and it's a foundation question, let me call it, because many the audience today will be grade 11 and grade 12 students who will be interested in hearing the question that states, what's the difference between school and university, knowing also that we're living in times of pandemic? Simply tell them what's the difference between school and university. Feel free to share the floor.
To be honest, in my opinion and my experience, especially in this last year during the entire pandemic, um, college professors are not like your high school professors, mainly in the aspect that they won't run after you, especially in the pandemic where everything's online. You have to keep track of all your labs, all your projects, all your papers, all your assignments, your tests, your quizzes, your pop quizzes. So your best friend is literally the syllabus. I know in the beginning of the school year, grade 11, grade 10, the teacher will give you out the syllabus and you just won't read it. But in college, you'll actually need to read it because everything that's on it will happen and the professor is going to hold you by the syllabus. Um, Basically, the responsibilities onto you. My professors were very lenient, so they won't go after you. So sometimes, so you would have to be responsible for all your work. So as long as you just read the syllabus, focus in class, attend lectures, feel how everything is, I think it shouldn't be that different. Especially that you can choose your own timings. I like that.
Timmy, would you not agree? A deadline in university is a deadline, and it just means that you cannot change dates based on your mood, or you go up to your teacher and say, hey, can I change my deadline, please? Deadlines can be different in university. Would you guys not agree on that?
Um, well, for me, I had most because I'm taking mostly aviation courses, so most of my teachers are very lenient about it because they have to do flight tests and stuff like that. So for me, my anything that's not an exam was a deadline. most of my projects where there's some leniency, but of course you have this entire courtesy you gotta do. You have to tell your teacher a week before that, and even then he's gonna remember that. And first impression matters. So if you go up with the first assignment, it's not a good look. But I agree, you should always take that as a general rule of thumb. A deadline is a deadline. Otherwise, you'll just go down the rabbit hole.
Definitely agree with
I
you.
have to say something. So unmanned aerial system equals aviation now?
Yes, basically, I'm studying drones, flight, everything related to the logistics, management, technology related to the flying of drones. And it could be hardware, software, um, anything.
Sounds fun. Yasmin, walk us through your journey. What's the difference between school and university?
I think there is a really big difference, to be honest. And going back to the question that Ms. Myrna asked, in our university, if you don't follow deadlines, it could lead to you pass or fail. So in terms of deadlines in our university, it's very strict. And if you don't follow them, they either make you repeat the year, as in you fail and you automatically repeat the year, or you repeat it in the summer. They don't give you any other chances. And in terms of your question, it's a huge difference, as Tamim said. It's the same. As everyone knows, school is completely different than university. University is more serious, and you are much more independent, and you have to be. The amount of effort you put in is how much you care about your future. That's literally in your hands. Your future is in your hands, and what you study now is what you're going to be like in the future, what you want to advance in. But in school, it was more like laid back. If you do mistakes, it's okay. And university is more focused on what you want to do in your life.
I can relate to that. Totally makes sense. Aisha, what's your experience? You've only been gone for a few months now, so
Yeah.
you can clearly see the difference between school and university, right?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I haven't really left the country yet because of the pandemic and everything. So I know what school might have been like before the pandemic. I can compare it to school after the pandemic. I think Tamim and Layla don't have that experience with school, but I do. And I think school and university during the pandemic have this one overarching theme of you need to be on top of everything, and you also need to be very kind to yourself, because the things that are going on in the world, like, I mean, it's not an easy time for anyone. So you do need to be kind to yourself, but you also need to be accountable for everything you do. I think accountability is very important. You can skip a lecture if you're not feeling very well, but then you have to make sure that you set time to go back and watch the lecture, because you'd be doing yourself a disservice. So there is a lot more freedom in university, but I guess it's just how much you want. What do you want to make the most out of it, or do you want to lay around and fail?
So I guess what I'm picking up from the three of you,
I want to say something.
go on, Rina.
I want to say, however, what Aisha experienced in her graduation year, the senior year, was one-of-a-kind graduation, and I wonder if that will be repeated in Northeastern University. Speaking of the grand graduation we had, that was like worldly recognized, and who would thought during pandemic we will have such a grand graduation, Aisha? Ms. Olsoon?
I just picked up a theme in regards to the three of you, what you were talking about, and that was responsibility. So clearly there's a difference between responsibility in school, where you can rely on your teachers. There's more of a bonding between you and your teachers and your friends, whereas university is more about individual responsibility. Purely my responsibility to meet deadlines, my responsibility to attend lectures, my responsibility to do things at uni. So that's a common theme I kind of picked up from the three of you in regards to our first question. My second question for you guys is, we all have expectations. Whether we like it or not, we always set expectations. Now, do you feel like university life is really what it is? Or is it something else? I'm going to start off with Yasmin.
Okay. What do you mean by, do you think it's really, okay, the anticipation to go to university and the feeling of being in university compared to going to school, it's different. It's not like a day to day, like you don't go for, I don't know how other universities are, but like our university, it's not every day you go into university. So it's more like, so you don't see your friends as much. You don't see, it's just going to get the lectures, watch the lectures and everything in the university, and then come back home. It differs for everyone else. Yeah.
Yasmin, I remember having a talk with you once upon a time, 3 years back, and you had lots of expectations before you opted to do medicine about going to London, to study in London and being independent, living in a flat on your own, and that's no longer there. You're currently in Bahrain and studying in Bahrain. So that's the kind of expectation, like you were expecting to be very independent, living alone, and now you're in Bahrain, still at your parents' house. So what's the kind of expectations in the next few years that you have?
Okay, expectation wise, so I'll be done in 2 years. Hopefully, I'll be taking my US medical exam, so USMLE, and planning to leave to the US. And then I can experience the independency and all that. Like I feel finally I'm doing things on my own and it's a different experience. So actually, I didn't really get the university experience, but I'm grateful that I'm here with my family and everything. And there's always a time. There's a time for everything. So my time is later, like in 2 years. So yeah.
Excellent. Tameem, you're miles and miles away. Expectations, have they being met or not even near?
To be honest, I always wanted to go to the US to study aviation, especially my degree. So going there was really amazing, but I had what you would call the college experience, especially my freshman year, because there was no pandemic, everything was fine. So it was, and my school's a public school, so there's different people from all around the world. You get to meet people. People play football, baseball, all around. So maybe in the first year, I got to live that college experience because I lived on campus, in a dorm with 3 other roommates. So I had that experience in sort of going to an American college, living on campus, and it's, to be honest, it's nothing too um, it's nothing too special. It's about what you make it at the end of the day. As long as you know, as long as you have a certain idea in your head and you meet it, then that's what it is. But with this, with the pandemic hitting us, things died down. Especially because I live in a college town, everything is so slow. You don't feel a lot of people. There's not a lot of crowds, so it's a bit on the low end of side. But it is what it is. You have to follow the rules at the end of the day. But it's fine. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's what you make your college experience to be.
And to me, you're not the only one going through this. We're all in this together. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Expectations. I mean, I guess you were expecting not to go to uni anyways. Was that something you were expecting, or were you thinking I'll stay in Bahrain and then I'll decide where to go?
I knew I was going because I applied on early decision to Northeastern. So I knew from like the winter of 2019 that it was where I was supposed to go. So like prior to the pandemic. So my
But not on campus. So you had expectation not to be on campus.
Prior to the pandemic, because I got my acceptance prior to the pandemic. So like I had expectations to be on campus up until May. That's when it hit me that I wasn't going to go. And I think when we talk about university, especially in our culture, we talk about like going away and like liberation and, being an independent individual. But like I see a trend with Yasmin and Tameem and I, where we're all talking about, going to America and, living the dream and, being an independent person. But like, what's the price of independence? Like we're here getting our education, our parents' house, like I think for Yasmin and I. and it's like interesting and it's cool and like it's the same material. It's just I see that like the university experience is heavily based around like the events of your life and not actually what you're learning.
Very well put. Ms. Marina, do you have anything to input there?
Yes, definitely. I relate to what they're saying, and being a US graduate myself who experienced life back in 2004, I think learning and social life, or be it a personal journey, is needed. And I wish that Yasmin will get to travel abroad and lead that life. The same for Aisha. And for Tamim, that the pandemic ends and you go back to a crowded town and you enjoy a normal life pace. So, deriving from this talk, the question goes to speaking or describing challenges that you have faced, be it online study or on campus, like Tamim. And I think Ms. Ghusson here will be so interested in knowing if you faced any cultural challenges. I can give you a hint. Like, as long as I studied in the States, I was stereotyped for being German or an Italian student. The looks, maybe, the accent, maybe, and that had put me in awkward situations. Did you face any of this if you got to be seen on cam, or like when you walk on campus, like Tamim, especially in your freshman year? Let's start with Aisha. We'll go the order differently now.
I think a lot of the times, like when I'd open my mouth and say something, they're expecting to hear, you know, very broken English, or like, I know they've seen a lot of Arabs, but like sometimes I feel like the way I speak isn't very similar to the way other American students in my class speak. Like I didn't see many international students in the courses I was taking. So it was really funny to see their reactions sometimes. They have this very, you know, set pre-existing idea of what an Arab girl like sounds like and things Arab girls say. And it was really funny seeing them like, oh, you know, she doesn't think the way we thought she does. And like, it's funny to see them challenge stereotypes they've set for us. But at the same time, the way like their own culture and the way they speak is very different to us. I noticed that like transitioning to like speaking with people who had like predominantly American educations, the flow and like the way they share speech and like the way they share information with each other is very different to us. We're a lot more reserved. So it makes it very hard to communicate. I think that was like one of my biggest challenges.
Okay, relatable, but I remember your interest always in hybrid heritage and you maintaining your roots, which is Bayan motto and a belief, and still maintaining this global mindedness towards the world. You're an added value and asset, no doubt. Yasmin, cultural challenges you face in your own country and on this island, or something similar?
In terms of my university, the university has a lot of nationalities. We have a lot of nationalities, but at the same time, I didn't face any difficulties to fit in with the different cultures and everything. It felt like you're outside of Bahrain for a while, but there were no challenges in terms of cultures. No, everyone is so friendly. Maybe if I was in their country, it'd be different, but everyone's friendly with each other. We got to know everyone else's nationalities and how they do their things and their culture and their habits and everything. So there's no trouble in that.
Yasmin, are there any other challenges you might face other than cultural challenges?
Other difficulties is especially in the first year, but like every year it gets easier. So the challenges such as studying strategies. So for example, learning how to memorize, learning how to study, like every year it's different because the material completely changes or the method that the lectures are given out. So either it can be practical or lectures you just have to memorize. So it's med school, it's a lot of it's memorizing in the beginning. But then you really need to learn how to. Your memory has to be really good, of course. So I had a really bad. I struggled a lot with like memorizing back then in school days. So I learned how to memorize better and how to study and different ways to study.
That's excellent. So you overcame the challenges. Well done. Tamim? I'm sure.
For me, the culture, I don't think there was much of a shock because I think I was able to adapt well enough to, in order, like, for people to, uh, to be comfortable around me and me be comfortable around them. I don't think there was much of an issues other than I would like normally get people would think I'm Mexican because I'd always be playing football and then they'd come up to me speaking Spanish, and that's how I learned like picked up a couple of Spanish words. But other than that, the university is huge. People from all around the nationalities, so people you could tell people are from where. I have met a lot of Arabs because they look Arab, and it's, even though it might be stereotyping a bit, but it's a really good way to approach people, from back home, or people, just to get closer in touch to back home, especially since you're what, uh, like a 7,000 miles away. So it's really nice, but I don't know, maybe because I've go to like a very like, I go to a public university and there's a lot of people. I didn't experience that much of a culture shock.
So you don't travel much between cities? You don't do any travel yet because of the pandemic?
I know I still do travel between cities because I have some classes in one campus and some classes in another campus, so I do commute and take the bus. Um, but it's a 30-minute bus drive plus waiting for the stop, so it's like maybe an hour, but it's not that bad.
And that's university life. It's not just the academic stuff. It's also about the bus journeys, the train journeys, the walk from campus to your flat. It's all that. And hopefully when the pandemic's over, you can all go back to where you're supposed to be and really experience that. And Yasmin, hopefully you can make it to the US and really experience just the full package. It's no longer just the books. It is about everything Timmy was just talking about. That bus journey, I really miss the bus journeys. They were very productive journeys for me. I would read books during that journey. I would revise, prepare for my presentations. So really, it is university life as a whole isn't just about the course you're doing or the syllabus you're supposed to be covering. It's all the other aspects, the fun aspects that unfortunately you guys are not experiencing yet. But inshallah soon. Miss Marina.
Correct. Agree with all of you, and we hope for the best and a more holistic experience, as Ms. Olson reinforced. When we were discussing having Career Week and having panels, I was reached out by Miss Emily Tamim, Miss Emily Whitmore, who was an English teacher at the English department at our school. And Aisha and Yasmin, I taught you, so you may not be familiar with Miss Emily in class. And she addressed the question to Tamim, and we would like to hear your input as well on the question. I will literally read her question word for word because these are her words. And the question is, Tamim, due to the pandemic, and after having conversations with your professors and classmates, what has been said about future changes to your chosen career path? Miss Emily is asking, due to all this, not necessarily your major, but the career path, did they approach that a future plan and mention any impact that may happen?
Oh, we had plenty of discussions on that. My professors were ecstatic. They were really happy. Well, not about the unfortunate events of the pandemic. It's because of the pandemic, the world was able to showcase the hidden technology we have. We were able to see the amazing progress in aviations, and especially in my specialization of unmanned aerial systems, where you see Amazon starting to launch prototypes for drone delivery, limiting human interaction, increasing the ease of use, ease of delivery, the range. So we had plenty of discussions, and professors are pushing us forward to go more into the research side of things because they strongly believe that um, the pandemic, even though it might be a bad thing and it's synonymous with something bad, it is a stepping stone to hopefully a brighter and better future.
Love the positive and hopeful approach. Yasmin, Aisha, your input?
Sure. So I think with my degree, I have more of a social science approach to understanding the pandemic. Um, during English classes and like politics, and we talked about how this period of economic hardship may be the period before Renaissance, or like a Renaissance period, or like another boom in art and like literature. And like I find that, I find that very interesting, because we see that like a lot of people are being stimulated in different ways, and like there are being shifts and changes to like history and the course that people were taking in their life. So it's very interesting to see. And like we see the way people have changed in like the market behavior, you know, the way people act towards like consumerism has changed in itself. Like everything's radically changing. And I think we all see that in different ways.
That's a key point. Consumerism is shaping the global mindset and shifting interests. And we see, as you mentioned, Aisha, different aspects, and as Tamim mentioned, in terms of technology, the way politics shape the world. As in the field of medicine, dear Yasmin, what's going on? You are the trending hub now. You are handling this pandemic in all aspects.
In terms of the medical field, it's like everyone knows it's changing a lot, and there's new things to learn every day. It's always changing. So as a doctor also, any doctor has to always add knowledge to his, whatever he knows and whatever he learned, he still needs to learn every day. And in terms of the pandemic, a lot of things that have been discovered about, for example, the virus, we have been incorporated in like our studies currently, and it's very interesting, and I really enjoy it, to be honest. So the fact that we're going through this pandemic, we're also learning a huge topic in our studies also.
If I can talk on behalf of the educational field, there's been drastic changes with the way we teach. Never did we think, myself or Ms. Marino or anyone else, thought that we'd ever teach through, Google Meet. That was never an idea in the history of education. And so this is the future, I guess. I probably assume the next few years, a student will probably text a teacher and say, hey, I'm running late, send me the link. And then we just send the link off to the students. And as they're making their way to school, they can just probably start off the class through the Google Meet, another platform that we might be using in the future. So yes, the pandemic has had a drastic change to the way we do things. And sometimes it's good things. We're not saying it's all been negative. There's been very positive outcomes from the pandemic. So just looking at it from an educational sector point of view, it's been very eye-opening for us all, really. I do have a question from the audience, and I would like to remind the audience, kindly put any questions into the link that you have been provided. So the question is for all of you. What's the difference between school teachers and university professors? And I think at some point at the beginning, we did touch base on it. I think Tamim gave more of a broader understanding. I'm going to start off with you, Aisha. What's the difference between your school teachers and your professors?
I think that there's a huge difference between our school teachers and our professors. I love my professors in university. They're very kind people. They're very compassionate, but like my school teachers, especially in Bayan, were like family. Like genuinely, you guys are family to me. Because of COVID, you know, socially, our senior year wasn't what it should be, like socially. But I think academically and emotionally, our teachers really went out of their way to make sure that we, and like as we say in Bahrain, يعني ما كان شيء قاصر يعني علينا. You guys went out of your way to make sure that like it was the best year possible for us. And I think not only did we perform academically, but we were able to like have, you know, our graduation. We keep talking about it, but it was really a present, like it presented exactly how devoted our teachers were to making sure we had the best school experience. Like you guys went out of your way, you spent so much time helping us, and like that's the difference between school teachers, especially beyond school teachers and other school teachers, because I've seen both. And beyond school teachers, like they'll never leave your side no matter what.
Glad to hear these wonderful words. Thank you, Aisha. Yasmin.
Adding to what Aisha said, it's the same, but the difference is, for example, in my university, it would be really difficult to get in contact with the professor. The only way would be through email, or most of the times they'd be busy. But in terms of school, like they're always there. So whenever they can, and most of the times they made time for me when I was there back then, and they were very helpful, and like they really helped with my studies, and they teach one-on-one. But in university, it's like completely different. So as I said, it's not a close contact anymore. It's more like you email them, you ask a question, and one specific question, and if the professor has time, he would answer, and not specifically like on the day he would answer. Whereas it's completely different in school. They meet your needs way more than in university.
Yes, so university life is all about being independent. So even when you have questions to ask your professors, it does require you to actually go and dig for your own information, because they might reply back in a few days. So yes, totally understand that. I was going to call you later. Yasmin. Tamim.
For me, it was a really case-by-case basis. Well, the general trend I realized was that the bigger the class, the less attention you'll get by the teacher. So my advice to anyone who wants to enroll in classes, especially, well, it's going to be hard in your first year since mostly general classes, but try your very best to enroll in smaller size classes so you get more one-on-one times with the teachers. And even if it's a class that has 150 students, go up to the teacher, talk to him, let him see your face. Well, even if it's through Zoom, set up a Zoom meeting, open up your camera, don't close your cameras, because at this point, the professors are also in need of social interaction. And there was a psychology paper released by our university that showed that if you open up your cameras during lecture, the teacher will actually give you more attention than the people who don't. So it could be like a small study session, even though there's 150 kids with you. So as long as you just talk to the teacher, I think during university, it's your time to get out of your shell and just go talk, get to the bottom of things, know the layout, know the format, know how the teacher works, if he's lenient, if he's strict. Um, I think you have to be very quick on your feet in uni, and you have to be adapt very quickly.
Great advice from you, Tamim. And that's exactly what we also push for, students to keep their cameras on, because it always makes life easier to feel like you're talking to someone rather than just black screens. Ms. Marina?
I have just received a question which ties with the fact, with what we're discussing regarding adaptation and the need to be independent. And it's a student who's currently a grade 12 at Bahrain Bayan School. And she's asking to know, Miss, ask them if they doubted their majors, or if not, how did they overcome this doubt? Did they straight away know that I want to major, like let's say Tamim in aviation, or the whole your major, which is for me a bit alienated? or like medicine or economics. So what would you advise the students who are still doubtful about their majors, and how can they make up their minds and be assertive about it?
I can answer that question because I've experienced this a lot. So I knew I wanted to do medicine, but not 100% because no one can know exactly what they want to do, because unless you actually do the work that's for that major. So in school, we're taught the basics, the subjects, biology, chemistry, and all that for medicine, for example. You can learn like these are the basics, but it's not really doesn't determine if you like medicine or not until you apply and you go into the school and you do the material. And in terms of my experience, I did a foundation year, so I really didn't like it at all, and I thought this was med school, that's it. So foundation year was just biology, chemistry, physics, but also incorporated with like medicinal aspect to it. So I didn't know I liked it until you can say my second year there. So foundation year, first year wasn't it. So then you can say my second year. My second year, leaving out foundation year, was the year I knew because it was more of like you deal with the disease aspect and like the human body, more of that. So you will not know. You will most majors that what I experienced from my friends, also what they told me, that you will not know you will like. School helped a lot. Sorry, school helped a lot because, for example, whenever I'd visit school, I owe Susan for especially like everything we've learned. It was literally the basics, our first year, foundation year especially. So if anyone wants to go into a 6-year program or even a 7-year program in RCSI, it really helps, especially full IB. Full IB, biology, chemistry is really useful, and you are much more ahead than everyone else who took the basic subjects. And psychology did come across last year, my first 2 years after foundation year, we did do a lot of psychology. I'd always tell Ms. Khosun, like sometimes I'll just take a picture of like, oh, look, it's psychology. And anything else other than that, it's just psychology, biology, chemistry helped a lot. TOK, a bit. Yeah.
Remember, it's mandatory, you can't opt out. Aisha?
It taught me that like education is not a race, it's a marathon. Like you have an end goal and like you need to take your time and make sure you're preserving your own energy and your own, your resources and getting to that end goal. I think it's like Bayan empowered us a lot, like as individuals, not just like as students. We weren't just products being put out, out of the factory. We were people, we were human beings. And I think the way we were being perceived in school was like the way we started to perceive ourselves. And I think having that sense of empowerment is really important, out in the world.
We're very glad to hear these words from you guys. Miss Marina.
How did it feel? It's a skills question, remember? How did it feel when you first prepared your first meal on your own, knowing that you are abroad? You had to prepare. And she specified the fact that when you first prepared your cup of tea, it seems there is a story. And so tell us about skills we need to acquire, knowing that we are starting a journey on our own.
Okay, so to put it in short, the most important skills that you should have going into uni is critical thinking and communication. Without communication, you won't be able to get your way around, whether it's in the minor details of college campus, going from class to class, or it's the major detail of talking to your teacher, talking to your dean of students, talking to people on campus, talking to representatives, talking to future employee recruiters. So critical thinking also helps a lot because it just makes your life easier if you're able to connect that dots that much faster. So if you have those two skills, I think you're set for college, and then everything else comes with it, like cooking and preparing a meal, for example. That was well, the first time I prepared the meal. Well, it was actually the first semester of this year because I lived on campus, so I had like a cafeteria to go down and eat in. So I was preparing a meal and I put a timer, and I forgot to put the timer, and I forgot. I'm very forgetful, so I just forgot I had the tea on the burner, and it just was a bit too black for my taste, you could say.
It was an experience you will learn from.
Yeah,
Thank you.
now I know not to forget.
Thanks, Tamim. Yasmin and Aisha, think of two possible skills that you would want to give to these students who are currently watching you to actually develop and acquire before going to university. Aisha?
For me, it was two things: self-reflection and planning. Because like the only way you're gonna be able to see yourself is to like, and you need to see yourself in order to improve. So if you can self-reflect and you know who you are, you know what your skills are, that way you can plan. And I think that's very important in life and in university.
Thank you very much. Yasmin?
I think the most important thing is organization. So you need to be really organized in university, especially. So if you are aimed to do really good, it's all based on what your goals are. So you have to set out your goals in university. And also patience is a really big thing too. So if you want to get to somewhere, you have to have a lot of patience and a lot of hard work put in and a lot of responsibility.
You know, I always tell my students, my IB students, IB isn't difficult. It's all about time management. If you can time manage your deadlines, you will pass. You can be so smart, but you don't know how to time manage yourself, you won't get there. So really, one of the key skills that you need to build is time management. Miss Marina, do you have a skill you want to share before we come to an end?
The skill is to learn from others as well. This is something I learned at a later stage in my life. Sharing experience, sharing knowledge, opening up to others. What I think Tamim narrowed down by the word communication. It's a whole medium to facilitate learning. Ms. Ghussoon, and closure, it's almost 4 o'clock.
Yes. So I guess our time has come to an end. Unfortunately, we can spend hours and hours catching up with you guys, and it has been truly a pleasure to catch up with you, the panel. And we really appreciate your time and advice and guidance and being here on time. Again, punctuation, all that, well done. We wish you all the very best in your career, in whatever you do. And remember, we will always be here for you. One last advice to you all: enjoy every moment of your life, be it school, university, or work, because every moment creates the experience for our growth. My last word goes to Ms. Marina.
Thank you, Ms. Ghussoon, and thank you, fellow friends now. You are our friends, as you were our students. We take pride in meeting you and learning from you. It's your turn to teach us. I learned a lot from you today. I learned about skills and uni life that not necessarily for me, but to pass on to my daughter and share with her what you shared with me and tell her, see, this generation, how is it leading education? The final words to go to each one of you. We would like you to end this panel. And let's start with ladies first and by age. Let's go with Yasmin, Aisha, and Tamim. Final words.
Thank you so much again, Ms. Ghussoon and Ms. Myrna. And nice to see your faces, Aisha and Tamim. It was a very nice panel, and I really enjoyed discussing a lot of questions, and it's really brought back the memories from Bayan. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
It was really lovely catching up with all of you. And like, honestly, I really want to thank Miss Mirna and Miss Ghussoon, because it was like, I relived all my memories in Bayan, and like, I know the class of 2020, like always wanted to thank you guys for all your work with us and like everything you did for us. I know I mentioned it a bit like earlier, but thank you so much. You guys supported us through like what might be the hardest time of our life during the pandemic and our senior year. So yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity to be able to be here and talk to you guys today.
Aisha, this is getting very emotional, so we'll stop you there. Tamim.
Again, thank you for having me on this panel. It was an amazing experience. Like everyone previously said, it's like reliving the memories of being back in school. Thank you, Ms. Ghussoon and Ms. Mirna, for this wonderful conversation we had. And thank you, Yasmin and Aisha, for coming again. It's like being back in high school, seeing all your faces together. It's just, warms my heart since I'm the only one in the US here. It's like I'm back home now.
And it's bedtime for you, isn't it? Are you going back to bed now?
It's 6 a.m.
Are
So
you getting up?
actually,
Starting your day?
no, I'm just gonna go to campus now. I have an early class at 7:30.
We wish you all the best. Have a wonderful day. And once again, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
luck.
Thank
Bye.
you. See you.